Please join me in welcoming Charles Jacobs.
Several years ago, I lived in a small town in New England. This was a pristine little village. Hadn't changed much since the colonial era. But when I lived there, the town was racked by a controversy, literally split down the middle. And it all had to do with some developers that had purchased a ski area on the outskirts of the town and wanted to build high-density housing, condominiums alongside the runs, to ensure that enough people used the ski area for it to be financially viable. Well, half of the town was in favor of this, thought the economic benefit that it would bring would be fantastic. The other half, myself included, were bitterly opposed. We were worried about what it would do to the quality of life. Well, given that this was a New England village, you can imagine how this issue was decided. A town hall meeting was scheduled, and anybody was allowed to speak their piece, and at the end of the day, we were all going to vote on whether we would support this development or not support this development. The day of the town hall meeting, it filled up early. I mean, it was not only that this was a really important issue for people, it was also that these kinds of meetings were the opportunity for people to display their oratorical skills. So people were there early either to practice or to watch people practicing. The developers were up first, and they were smooth, they were polished. They wore nice suits and ties. They had architectural renderings of the proposed development on each side of the stage, and it had been designed to harmonize nicely with the surrounding woodlands. They had stacks of handouts in front of them that made a pervasive, very compelling case for why the town would benefit from this development. And it was almost as if they had anticipated every possible objection. I mean, it was just ironclad logic. Even I was convinced at the end of this that we needed this for the town. Developers sat down, and the moderator called for comments. And there was nothing heard in the room at all. It was absolutely quiet. It was as if people felt that they'd been preempted, that we had nowhere near the resources of these developers. There was no way we could counter the argument. But finally, in the back of the room, a little frail old Yankee stood up, dressed in that traditional outfit, the plaid shirt, the corduroys, the work boots, and in a very low voice, he said, "Gentlemen, you seem like nice fellas to me, and I don't know nothing about all these numbers. But I gotta tell you, your request for this development reminds me of a friend of mine who used to have a pickle with his sandwich for lunch every day. Unless he had both the pickle and the sandwich, he didn't feel he had a complete lunch. So he'd take a bite of the pickle, he'd take a bite of the sandwich, he'd take another bite of the pickle, another bite of the sandwich, and it was only when he had finished both that he was completely satisfied. Gentlemen, you're asking for one hell of a big pickle." And with that, he sat down. The room was deathly still. Nobody knew what the hell he had said. Then after a couple of minutes, there was a little bit of laughter in the back of the room. And the laughter built and built and built until it spread throughout the entire room as a roar, as people got the message. Now, certainly some of the laughter was occasioned by the fact that a pickle's rather a silly food, right? So to compare this expensive condominium development to a pickle was absurd. But people also picked up on the other meaning of the word pickle, as a difficult situation. And from that point on, this was no longer known as a condominium development, but one hell of a big pickle. At the end of the day, a vote was taken, the request for the proposal for the development was defeated, and about 2 years later, the ski area went bankrupt. Now, what was it this man did? I mean, how was he able to take nothing more than a literary ornament, a metaphor, and be able to defeat all of the resources of these very skilled developers? Well, I think what he did teaches us a lot about how the brain works. It also is very much what I think cognitive neuroscience is doing today. And the best definition I can give you of cognitive neuroscience is it's the investigation of how the brain, this organ of the brain, creates mind. And one of the things that it's doing is sort of challenging our common sense. It's a little bit like how somebody could compare a condominium development to a pickle and completely shoot down any argument against it. So what I want to do with you for about the next 45 minutes or so is just talk to you about some of the discoveries that have come out of cognitive neuroscience and what their practical applications may be.